أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن سيدنا محمدًا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فكشف الله تعالى به الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين من ربه. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الرحمة المهداة وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises belonging to Allah Azza wa Jalla, and may the peace and blessings be upon the beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon his family and companions in entirety. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla on this blessed day of Friday to preserve our humanity and to make us a people who continue to experience mercy and empathy towards others, who continue to grow in their relationships with others, and who the greatest part of their iman manifests in the way they treat those around them. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Amma ba'd, brothers and sisters, last week we spoke about some heavy things relating to iman, and how we said that the greatest testament to my content of character and who I am in my relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal is my dealings, my behavior. When it comes to salah and siyam and sadaqah and giving the charity, whether small or large, or making dua or reading Quran, that's something that many can do. Many can do. But what shows true greatness is one's ability to inspire others and to be loved by others, especially those who are closest. As we said in the khutbah last week, it's really easy to show a good face to someone who hardly knows you. smile in his face and say, I love you for the sake of Allah, brother, and show a nice and kind gesture. Many people could do this. Hatta Dajjal al-Munafiq, even a hypocrite could do this. But where does true content of Iman come? In being able to win those closest to me over. Those who see what other people don't see. And when we think about this, it's not easy to think about this. Wallahi, it's not easy. هذا كلام لا يعجب كثير من الناس. When we start talking about, all right, what will those closest to me say about me and who I am? We know what they said about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What will they say about me? What will my spouse say about me, my children, my parents? What will my business partners say about me? Will they say, this is the person who is an egotistical narcissist, a hothead, someone you can't go near, someone who never accepts advice, someone who taught us qati'ah, someone who taught us how to cut off ties of kin. Sometimes, and as we said last week, sometimes in some homes, uquq is trained. The children are trained on how to do uquq. The parents come complaining, my son, my daughter is doing this, this and that. Not realizing that they programmed them that with this behavior. And how they deal with each other as spouses, or in how they deal with their parents. Sometimes in some homes, uquq, qati'ah is taught as well, cutting off ties of kin. Oh, your uncle fulan or your aunt fulan, don't talk to them anymore, don't call them, don't be nice with them because we cut them off. He did this or she did that to me, la khalas. It's qati'ah. Training our children to have these types of things is a very scary thing, wallahi, brothers and sisters. Whereas we learn from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the greatest shahadat, one of the greatest testaments was by a Sa'ib, Ibn Abi Sa'ib. We mentioned him last week. كان شريك النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في الجاهلية. Before he became Muslim, he was the Prophet's business partner. After he became Muslim, he walked in. And the companions were praising as-Sa'ib. They were saying good things about him. So the Prophet ﷺ said, أَنَا أَعْلَمُكُمْ بِهِ. I know him best. I know him best. Then the Sayyidina Sa'ib said, نعم صدقت بأبي أنت وأمي كنت شريكي فنعم الشريك كنت لا تداري ولا تماري. He said to the Prophet ﷺ, you spoke truth. You were my partner. And you were the best partner. كنت لا تداري. You weren't a fake person. وكنت لا تماري. You weren't a person who was toxic, always fighting, always arguing, always spewing negative energy. Think about this. Sometimes, or many times, we get situations where the sharik comes and prays in the masjid. And sometimes people don't know about that other side of the person. Oh, you know Fulan, Fulani, the one who prays with you in the masjid. He's the same person who has rafi' qadiyya, he has a court case against so-and-so, and he took this from so-and-so, and he's in a financial dispute with so-and-so, and the list goes on and on. A bunch of accolades. Of course, not accolades, wal-'iyadhu billah, but that's where content of character shows. And brothers and sisters, in this week, last week we were speaking about it, in light of the ayah, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا قَبْلَكَ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا إِنَّهُمْ لَيَأْكُلُونَ الطَّعَامَ وَيَمْشُونَ فِي الْأَسْوَاقِ. The prophets were implanted among their people. They walked about the markets. They had to earn a living. They had to deal with people. Human interaction was part and parcel in what made the message so great. It made the likes of Anas ibn Malik, who we started talking about last week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this week. But the prophets, their whole message was about dealing with people, interaction. And when you look at that and the dealings of the prophets and messengers, may Allah's pleasure be upon them all, it teaches us a lot. What really matters, what really counts in terms of my relationship with Allah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا قَبْلَكَ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ إِلَّا إِنَّهُمْ لَيَأْكُلُونَ الطَّعَامَ وَيَمْشُونَ فِي الْأَسْوَاقِ. We want to build on this. Something gives us a different outlook on this week. A tragedy, something that we don't want, the direct opposite. You know, the Prophet ﷺ's goodness is in that goodness attracts. Al-akhlaqu mu'diyah. The character of the Prophet inspired those he dealt with. And that's why they became so great. But then when you look at something that happened this past few days, that shooting in Texas, just one of many, in Uvalde, Texas, it just reminds us of something very, very different. Something that is far removed from humanity. An 18-year-old, someone who hardly experienced anything in life yet, waking up in the morning and not for breakfast, to kill his grandmother, and not to just go kill his grandmother and that's it. No, I'm going to post it on social media first. I'm going to shoot my grandmother. Shot her. I shot my grandmother. Now I'm going to go shoot up an elementary school. These are posts that he's posting on his Facebook. And then he goes, and out of all demographics he chooses the most vulnerable. 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 3rd graders, 4th graders. And he kills 19 and 2 adults, 19 children and 2 adults. And when you think about this, brothers and sisters, some people make the talk about gun control. And that's an important subject. That's not what we want to talk about. What happened to this person's humanity that made it okay in his mind to kill his grandmother and kill a bunch of kids? We could talk about mental health, and we have another khutbah, and that's an important subject. But sometimes the causes of these really messed up realities in people's lives is because of the stressors, the way they live their life. Isolation, brothers and sisters, is ruining society. This is something we need to think about, because some people think, well, you know what, he wasn't Muslim, he wasn't from a Muslim family, that's why he did that. Well, it's not true. That's not true. This brutality, this tendency towards violence, cruelty, manifests in so many ways, wallahi. And it even manifests in our Muslim relationships, our Muslim families. Last week, didn't mention it in the khutbah last week, but I mentioned it this week. Same reality, but this time someone a little older, but just as inhumane. Houston, Texas. A guy going through a brutal divorce with his wife. She complained. She complained to Muslim organizations. She complained to the police. No one did anything. He decided to take a gun and go kill her. And not only that, do something so atrocious and foreign to humanity. At a period in time, people were thinking, like the companions thought, كيف يسب الرجل أباه? How could someone curse his father? It doesn't make sense. Who's going to do that? They were thinking like that. That's very, very long ago. Who would curse his father? And the Prophet had to explain it to them in a way they could understand. يسب الرجل أبا الرجل فيسب أباه. He had to clarify it to them. That's when someone curses someone else's father, and that person then goes and curses their father. It was very foreign to their understandings. That man, he went and he killed his 4-year-old daughter. His wife was a teacher at an Islamic school. He killed a 4-year-old. And then he went and killed his wife's mother as well. That's not enough. We also, a third incident from Texas, and I don't mean to pick on Texas, but years back, we also had the same situation. 2 brothers went and killed their whole family and then killed themselves. Muslim family. Brothers and sisters, these don't just happen as random acts of violence. What messes people up? We need to think about this. When children are allowed to isolate, when we are allowed to isolate, even adults, for hours on end, and you know what it's about? 6, 7 hours, 8 hours playing Call of Duty, ولا مش عارف إيه. And the whole thing is about you win if you kill the most people. You know what? You want to watch movies, they have a genre of movies just about horror and about horrific, sinister, evil things, about murder, about other mischievous things. Brothers and sisters, when people are allowed to lose contact with other human beings, we have a problem now. that social skills are really on the decline. People don't know how to talk with each other anymore. They don't want to talk with each other. They just want to be with me, myself, and I. You know what that creates? It creates a narcissist. It creates someone who's so self-absorbed. His life is not about anyone else but himself. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. This is the reality of today, when the nafs and individualism is allowed to run wild. When we think about what happened in Texas, we need to think about it on this level, because this tendency towards cruelty and brutality is something that manifests in the way people deal with who they get into disputes with. وَإِذَا خَاصَمَ فَجَرَ. That person, oh, you crossed the line with me, I will make every dua in the book against you. And I will continue to wait and pray for not only you to be ruined, your children to be ruined, and your home to be ruined, and everything about you to just be in complete disarray. Brothers and sisters, that's loss of humanity. Isolation is ruining society when people don't have good voices around them. When, you know what, one of the best fixes, I'm going through a lot of stuff. You know what the best solutions I could do? The best solution is I'm just going to force myself to be around good people. I'm going to force myself to be around the masjid, to be around people that, inspire me. That's what we learn from our deen. You know the hadith al-Qudsi, where Allah Azza wa Jal asks the angels, what are my servants asking of me? And the angels say they're asking for your forgiveness and they're making dua for you. And Allah Azza wa Jal tells the angels, قَدْ غَفَرْتُ لَهُمْ فَأَعْطَيْتُهُمْ مَا سَأَلُوا وَأَجَرْتُهُمْ مِمَّا اسْتَجَارُوا. I gave them what they wanted, and I'll protect them from what they fear. And the hadith goes on to say, the angels say, رَبِّ فِيهِمْ فُلَانٍ لَيْسَ مِنْهُمْ. There is among them fulan al-khatta' marra fajalasa ma'ahum. He just passed by and he happened to sit with them. Then Allah Azza wa Jal says, humul qawm la yashqa bihim jalisuhum. There are people, those who sit with them will not be in vain, they'll not be lost. I need that. I need good voices around me. When everything around the person is negative, it'll be so hard for that person to be positive. Brothers and sisters, sometimes there's signs of this. There's signs of this. Wallahi, there's signs. You know, there's a book in Arabic, and I don't think it's translated into English. It's called Taba'i'ul Istibdad, The Nature of Tyranny. And he describes how in a society where oppression becomes so dominant. Everyone who has space, please fill it up, so that those who are coming in can find their space, inshallah. And I think there's some space in this corner over here. Please, the brothers at the door, come inside, inshallah. Ifsahu yafsahillahu lakum. And there's also a space upstairs for those who don't know. So in this book, Taba'i'ul Istibdad, The Nature of Tyranny, he says everyone who's above someone else oppresses those beneath them. And the ones at the very bottom, what do? They oppress animals. This is what this kid did. They say that there's reports of so many red flags. He would put a cat in a bag and throw it up against the neighbor's house. And really, really strange. What would cause humanity to go so wrong? It's so easy to say that he's just messed up in the head. But there's too many stories. How do people become messed up like this? In some homes, racism is taught. We need to be honest about it. In some homes, مش من البلد الفلاني. No, البلد الفلاني طبيعتهم هيك. No, not from this country. Not from that country. No, you'll never get married for them. Those people are bad people. We're the good people. They're the bad people. You don't get married from this country. Or no, you can't get married to this color. Because if you get married to this color, well, it's going to be it's going to be a shame. Wallahi, there's these situations. Wallahi, there are some of our sisters, because their skin color is not the right color, their marriage ends up getting delayed because of foolish people and the way they're trained to think like. Some homes teach racism. What do you think that causes in dealings with others, in terms of people being like sectarian, hateful? It didn't come from nowhere that caused a guy to take a gun and shoot up a supermarket because the people there are black. It didn't come from nowhere. And Muslims are not immune to this. And anyone who knows the condition back home will know the words that are used for people from certain areas or people who have certain colors. Wallahi, it's a shame. It's so far removed from al-khuluq al-Muhammadi. Going back to the Prophet ﷺ, this relates to last week. The Prophet ﷺ made everything about what he was, about human relations. And that's what we need today. We need to revive that. Wallahi, I cannot keep the reality that I as a father only talk with my kid when they do something wrong. Many people, that's the reality. Al-Abu mukhu absar wain. He's either in some news or hanging out with friends. He's completely removed. And he's only called upon when we need the big guns. The kids aren't listening. He's doing this, he's saying that. He's not listening to the mother. Get involved. Wallahi, we see in look at the example of the Prophet ﷺ. I'm going to go back to Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. Sayyidina Anas was sent by the Prophet ﷺ to fulfill a certain task. As he mentions, he says, كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحسن الناس خلقا وأرحبهم صدرا وأوفرهم حنانا فقد أرسلني يوما لحاجة فخرجت وقصدت صبيانا كانوا يلعبون في السوق لألعب معهم. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, he was a young boy. His mother put him to be in the presence of the Prophet. As we said last week, she was smart. Sulaym radiyallahu anha, the first Muslim woman the first woman to accept Islam from among the Ansar, Sulaym bint Milhan. She was smart. He was a young boy. The Prophet sent him out to do something, and what did he do? He went to the market to play with some kids. So then he says, فلما صرت إليهم شعرت بإنسان يقف خلفي ويأخذ بثوبي فالتفت فإذا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يتبسم. He said, when I got there and I was with the kids, I found that there was someone much bigger than me, behind me, and he was tugging at my clothes. And I turned around and he was Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was smiling in my face. Wallahi, look at this, the azam of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wallahi, that's what preserves humanity. That's what creates a sound human being. He was like the Prophet's son. That's what, in some homes, the parents create narcissists. They create oppressors. They create awful husbands and awful wives. Yes, wallahi, brothers and sisters, because for many other fathers, if they were in the position of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what would have they said? يلعن كذا ويا الله ياخذ كذا ومش عارف كذا. I don't want to say the dua is on the minbar. لا أريد أن أدنس المنبر بما يقال على أفواه كثير من الآباء. What do you think that teaches? When every curse word is said at the kid when he does something wrong, you think it's going to create an emotionally stable human being? Wallahi, you could see the broken people who have no self-esteem from those who experienced proper tarbiyah in their homes. You could tell. You could tell where the home, it's a healthy reality, and another home where there's a lot of issues. People aren't born with low self-esteem. People aren't born with emotional issues. It comes because of dynamics we allow to develop in our homes and in our relationships. So anyway, the Prophet ﷺ smiled in his face and he said, Ya Unais, أذهبت إلى حيث أمرتك? Did you go where I told you to go? So then he says, فارتبكت وقلت نعم إني ذاهب الآن يا رسول الله. He got nervous. He got caught. He said, I'm going to go now. So he went and he fulfilled the need of the Prophet ﷺ. And after that, he went home. He says, the hadith goes on, فأبطأت على أمي فلما جئت قالت ما حبسك. I was late. And she asked me, Why were you late? ما حبسك؟ فقلت بعثني رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لحاجة. Again, he is a 10-year-old boy, right? Decision makers don't come from the sky. Wallahi, a person who has the confidence to make good decisions isn't born with that. That's something that's developed. She asked him, what was the Prophet's need? وَمَا حَاجَتُهُ? I was late because I was fulfilling the Prophet's need. What did he need? So then he said to his mother, إِنَّهَا سِرٌّ. It's a secret. I can't tell you. I can't tell you. The Prophet didn't give me permission. فقالت لا تحدثن بسر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أحدا. In another variation it says فاحفظ على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سره. Preserve the secret of the Prophet. Don't tell anybody. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. When you look at human interaction and you compare it to Facebook and social media, what's the garbage that people are wasting their lives away on? What is the garbage? The hours of our week, hours. For some people, hours of the day. It's just wasted on, Facebook, by the way, is the old thing. They have a lot of other things now. Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. TikTok, and I don't know if there's anything else. But the point is, hours on end. Wasted away. Ya Allah, and you could tell because you could put screen time on your phone and check how many hours was I on my phone this week. How many hours was I on my phone this week? Once upon a time, they used to have data plans for the internet, right? They used to have, 3 gigabyte plan or 10 gigabyte plan. Now, sometimes one person uses by themselves 20 gigabytes, 30 gigabytes, 40 gigabytes. Why? Video after video after video after video. The mind is fried. The mind doesn't have any capacity to learn how to deal with others whatsoever. You see this in our children. We have many of our children here today. After the khutbah, ask your son or daughter, does this apply or not? Right? It's to the extent that when they're watching something on TV, it's the new sihr. It's the new black magic of today. Minds are zapped. You could call them 100 times and it's like they're zoned out in a different reality. Some of the kids, they get so into playing these video games, they'll do it on themselves. They won't go to the bathroom. Because if they do, they're going to lose the match. Ya Allah, what is happening to human beings? That's why we're seeing mass shootings. That's why we're seeing this. That's why we're seeing uquq on a whole nother level. Narcissism on a whole nother level. That's why we're seeing that, such failed marriages among people. Ya Allah, there's reasons for this. What happened there relates to me. Isolation is ruining society. May Allah protect us and our kids and our families and better us and allow us to learn from the example of the Prophet ﷺ. Allahumma ameen. Udu Allah wa antum muqinuna bil ijaba. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Ashrafil Khalqi wa Sayyidil Mursaleen, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, I need good people. I need to be around positive energy. I can't allow myself to stay in toxic realities. I need to withdraw from anything that's toxic and go flee to Allah Azza wa Jal, looking for someone who's going to help me become a better person. This is what Sayyidina Luqman advised his son. He said, this is in Muwatta Imam Malik. It's from Balaghat Malik. He says that Balagani anna Luqman al-Hakim, Sayyidina Luqman alayhi salam, he told his son, Ya bunay, jalis al-ulama'a wa zahimhum. Oh my son, sit close to people of knowledge and understanding. Sit close to them, people who could teach you, people who could be a positive influence upon you, inspire you. Go close to them. جالس العلماء وزاحمهم فإن الله يحيي القلوب بنور الحكمة كما يحيي الأرض بوابل السماء. He says, Allah revives the heart with words of wisdom, just as He revives the earth with rain that comes from above. Ya Allah, I need this. You know what? Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik wasn't just influenced by the Prophet ﷺ. We need a good support system around us. I'm going to force myself to be around it. In it, I'm not going to allow myself or my children or my family to isolate. I need this. Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, he didn't just have Rasulullah ﷺ. He had a great mother, Sulaym. Sulaym. We need to know about Sulaym. Sulaym was married to Malik ibn al-Nadr. When she first became Muslim, he didn't want to accept Islam. And her marriage ended when he died soon after she accepted Islam. And she got married to Abu Talha al-Ansari. He's the stepfather of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik. I need to know who Abu Talha is. He's the one who sold al-Bayruha, his beloved garden, when he found that Allah says, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You'll never truly become a benevolent people until you give from that which you love. So Abu Talha, Sayyidina Anas's stepfather, he said that my most beloved money is this garden. It's my most prized asset. I put everything into this. I'm going to give it for the sake of Allah. So then the Prophet ﷺ told him, this is a profitable transaction. اجعلها في الأقربين. Give it to those who are nearest to you. Divide it among them. That's Abu Talha. He didn't have just Abu Talha, he also had his brother, Al-Bara ibn Malik. Al-Bara ibn Malik was mustajab al-da'wah. As the Prophet ﷺ said, he was a person whose prayers were answered. Ya Allah, where's all this goodness coming from? Where is it coming from? He's the one who the Prophet said about رُبَّ أَشْعَثَ أَغْبَرَ ذِي طِمْرَيْنٍ لَوْ أَقْسَمَ عَلَى اللَّهِ لَأَبَرَّهُ. There is some people who are, their appearance isn't very attractive. You know, they don't look very appealing, but there are people who, if they were to take an oath by Allah, Allah would answer them. People don't look towards them. They're not like leaders. They're not in the limelight, but they're special by Allah. That's Anas ibn Malik's brother. His mother, his aunt, his khala is Haram bint Milhan. She's one of the companions who the Prophet ﷺ saw in his dream. That he saw some of his companions going upon the water, traveling across water as muluk ala al-asirra. And they're the ones, she was one of the ones who was in Fath Qubros, the conquest of Cyprus. That was the mother, that was the aunt of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik. His uncle, his was Sayyidina Anas ibn al-Nadr. He's the one who said, as we know from the seerah, I smell Jannah closer to me than Uhud. That's Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik's uncle. You see, when we come together and there's a lot of goodness around, wallahi, there'll be amazing results. We're having trouble with our children. Well, you know what? Maybe it's because our children don't know what it means to have family. Because I have a brother I haven't talked to for 3 years because of an inheritance dispute, and a sister who I hardly ever check in on, or maybe because I cut off ties with my parents because of X, Y, Z. Maybe that's why my children aren't doing any good. Or you know what? Maybe my children aren't doing any good because I've cut them off from positive influence. I need to think about this. I need to think about this deeply. This is what we learn from our beloved Prophet ﷺ, from the example of Iman. Iman is meant to be cultivated within a jama'ah, within a group, within a community, within a society. It's no mistake when you see out of a household coming problem after problem. A narcissist son, an oppressed daughter, someone who has no self-esteem in this. And when you see those problems repetitive in households, you know that there's a big problem in how Iman is lived and experienced. May Allah Azza wa Jal forgive us. Wallahi, most of our families, 99% of them are plagued with these things. These are things meant to remind us. Wallahi, we're all dealing with challenges. ما في حد يسلم من مثل هذا في هذا الزمان. This is one of the things that عمت به البلوى. This is general hardship that has afflicted everybody. Loss of identity, loss of faith, confusion, misdirection, mental health issues, isolation. And this is how we fix it. The solution's there. May Allah Azza wa Jal allow us to take by it. Allahumma ameen. اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا واعف عنا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا. اللهم اغفر لصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا. اللهم من احييته منا فاحيه على الايمان ومن امته منا فامته على الاسلام. اللهم اجعل خير عمرنا اخره واجعل خير عملنا خواتمه واجعل خير ايامنا يوم ان نلقاك فيه وانت راض عنا. امين امين. واخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. واقم الصلاه.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا يرحمني يرحمكم الله. اللهم احسن وقوفنا بين يديك ولا تخزنا يوم العرض عليك. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. A few dua requests. One of them is dua for our sister Samar Nawar Ibrahim. She's been tired in the hospital with COVID, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give her شفاء عافية. اللهم رب الناس اذهب البأس واشف أنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك اشفها شفاء لا يغادر سقما. نسأل الله العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. نسأل الله العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. نسأل الله العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. اللهم أنت الشافي وأنت الكافي وأنت المعافي، ردها إلى كامل صحتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. داويها بدوائك واشفها بشفائك يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين. And we also make dua for and the uncle of our brother Shihab, who passed away this past Tuesday in Dubai. He requested that we make dua for him. And also we make dua for one of our sisters who passed away this past weekend at a very young age, Jinan Abu Rumi, leaving behind a newborn baby. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy upon them both. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma اغفر لهما وارحمهما وعافهما واعف عنهما وتجاوز عن سيئاتهما. اللهم أكرم نزلهما واسع مدخلهما وجاف الأرض عن جنبيهما. اللهم إن كان محسنين فزد في إحسانهما وإن كان مسيئين فتجاوز عن سيئاتهما. اللهم اغسلهما بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقهما من الذنوب والخطايا والآثام كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم اجعل مأواهما الجنة ولا تجعل مأواهما النار. اللهم اجعل مأواهما الجنة ولا تجعل مأواهما النار. اللهم اجعل مأواهما الجنة ولا تجعل مأواهما النار. اللهم أبدلهما دارا خيرا من دارهما وأهلا خيرا من أهلهما وجيرانا خيرا من جيرانهما وارزق أهلهما الصبر والسلوان واجمعهم بهما في جناتك جنات النعيم يا أرحم الراحمين. And our aza is for our brother Shihab and also her husband who's always praying Jum'ah with us, our brother Rami Judah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate your pain. Allahumma ameen. And last announcement, this weekend, of course, Memorial Day weekend, there is a conference in Baltimore, Maryland. It's the ICNA Mass Convention. It's been going on for many years. And if you can attend it, this is a good type of environment to take your children to so that they could learn something, hear something positive, and be around a large body of Muslims, tens of